Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm doing part 1 and part 2. So following part 1, there'll be part 2 of my 10 cards 1 kit with the Simon Says stamp April 2019 card kit. This is called Hello Darling, and we're going to take a quick look at what comes in the kit. These are your cardstock sheets, and I use them for my card bases this month. You get sea glass, ivory, cotton candy, and dark chocolate, and I love the color palette. For some reason it just reminds me of a cupcake. But this is your 6x8 stamp set. It's called Hello Darling. And then you also get a real pretty die. This die is called the Rain Boot Planner die. And it is on the larger side. It's perfect size for your card fronts. Great focal point. You can see here against an A2 size card panel, the size of it. Next up we have some pattern papers. This month they're from Simple Stories, and they're 6x8, which is great. They're double-sided, beautiful spring colors. These are called the Spring Farmhouse pattern papers. If you like scrapbooking, plenty of images in here for scrapbooking, but also for card making because you get some cut aparts here. Super pretty. So you get 12 of these. Also included in the kit are some envelopes. You get ivory, you get a sea glass, which is a metallic, a dark chocolate, and cotton candy. You also get a 6x6 piece of craft cardstock. Very sturdy. You get 2 sticker sheets. They're also from Simple Stories. They're the Spring Farmhouse collection, so they coordinate beautifully. Also included is this little 4x6 piece of Sizzix double-sided black foam adhesive. And then you get a little sample of the vintage drops, which I've never tried before. These will dry a matte, so the shine will go away once they dry. But the color here is bohemian teal. Super pretty. And then that is everything that comes in this month's kit. So we're going to start by making our first 5 cards, and again, following this tutorial will be part 2 if you want to click on that link at the end. So for card number 1, in the stamp set there's this beautiful sentiment, and it's on the larger side. It says Hello Darling. And I always have trouble trying to figure out how to color in a sentiment that is stamped with florals. So what we're going to do is do some heat embossing with it. I'm going to take this and place this on some watercolor cardstock. I'm going to offset it just a hair to the right, and then I'll just pick it up with the lid of my MISTI, and then using my watermark ink we're going to go over our sentiment here. This is super pretty, and it's a great focal point for your card. I'm going to stamp it a few times with my watermark ink. We're going to heat emboss with white embossing powder. And then if you watch my tutorial yesterday, you'll find that I did almost the same technique as I'm doing today, just to color in my background. I'm finding I'm really liking this little technique that I'm using, the way the colors just blend together. But I just added white embossing powder. I'm using my heat gun to dry that embossing powder, and then we're going to color it in. We're going to start off by using some peeled paint, Distress Oxide ink. I'm going to use my little detail blending tools. These are from Ranger, and I'll link them down below, but they're super handy. I'm just going over the leaves, and since the leaves and the flowers were basically solid images, it's going to resist that embossing powder. Next we're going to color in our little flowers with worn lipstick, and then there's little dot details in this background, and I decided to use some stormy sky. And then to color in the area behind my sentiment, you should probably maybe use a bigger blending tool or a finger dauber to do this part. But I'm just doing a little shading with scattered straw, just kind of balancing it. Now in that little corner there was no flowers, but I'm going to add a little ink anyway. Okay, now I'm going to take my water bottle. We're going to do some spraying over the top of it, and what the water is going to do is just going to blend all those colors beautifully, organically together. And then also when you pick it up with a towel, it's going to soften those colors also. So they're not as vibrant. But I think the colors are just super pretty. It's hard to tell here, but in the pictures maybe you'll be able to see better, but it really does stand out, and I think it turns out a good way to color in those solid image backgrounds. Okay, for my card base, I scored and folded the cotton candy that was in the card kit. just created an A2 size card base with that. And I thought we'd add a little detail using the polka dot image that was in the stamp set. This is a great border, so I'm just going around the border of my card base, and I'm going to leave it as a watermark, so those dots are going to be very faint, but they'll be noticeable, which is nice, keeping it very soft. I'm going to use a piece of scratch paper and add one more row of dots here so it's all nice and balanced. Okay, since I used my watercolor cardstock, I did add fun foam behind my panel here, and then I'm taking a strip of the yellow and white stripe paper. I just cut out a 1/4 inch strip. I'm adhering it to the left of my panel to give it a little bit of color, and then I'm taking some natural colored twine and I'm going to wrap it around twice and then tie a single bow towards the bottom. I think the colors went really well with the natural twine. I'm just going to trim off the tails here. We're going to add some tape behind our fun foam, and then we're going to adhere this to our card base. The fun foam will help flatten that warped watercolor cardstock. So I have a nice little polka dot border around it. Super soft and pretty. Now for finishing touches, I'm going to go in with some ivory gems. Keeping it really soft, we're just going to add a few around our little image, and that finishes off card number 1. Here's a few close-ups. Okay, now next for card number 2, we are going to do, I love this pattern paper, and I love this die. We're going to put pattern paper and the die together. So I'm just cutting out the bottom portion of my rain boot planner die, and then using the leaf image in the stamp set, I'm stamping that with some MFT sour apple ink. I'm going to fussy cut out my leaves, and I'm going to color in the tulips, just the tulips that are on the rain boot. I just trimmed the rain boot off. I left the colors that I used for my tulips in the left here for you guys. But love this pattern paper. I like the black words in the background, and I also like that there's color detail. So from 2 inches from the top of my card base, this is the dark chocolate card base. I just again folded it to make my folded it in half and scored it to create my A2 size card base. But I'm adding this pattern paper to the very bottom. And then I did trim down a 1/2 inch strip of this pattern paper. This was the pink gingham. We're going to cover our seam with this pattern here. Now I wanted a little bit of dimension. We're going to go ahead and adhere our leaves. These leaves are going to be put right behind our little planner. We'll glue those down. And before we do anything else, I think we should, well, we're going to tape our tulips to our little border piece. But I am going to stamp the sentiment. In the stamp set, there's a sentiment that says, "Thinking of you." We're going to heat emboss with white embossing powder. So I'm going to treat my paper with my anti-static powder tool. I'm going to ink up my sentiment with my watermark ink, and then we're going to add white embossing powder. Just go over our sentiment. This is going to stand out against that dark chocolate cardstock. And we'll use our heat gun and melt our sentiment. Okay, for my tulips and the border strip here, we're going to flip it over and add some foam tape behind it. And then this is going to be my dimension on my card. We'll just place that over the seam. We're going to lower our leaf images here just a little bit. And add our tulips. And then I'm going to bring in some white twine, and we're going to wrap it around our seam. This is a natural twine, and I think it goes really good with that pattern paper on the bottom. We'll just tie a bow right below our tulips, And then just to make our tulip stand out a little bit more, I'm going to use my white gel pen and just add a little bit of white detail to my tulips and the leaves in the background. And then we finished card number 2. Okay, now we're going to move along to card number 3. This is a super fun card. I really love the colors in this one. So I have my card base here I created with the sea glass cardstock, and I'm taking a piece of white cardstock and adding some Post-it tape to it. I'm going to use my paper trimmer and trim out 4 half-inch strips. This is a great way for me to get my Post-it tape cut in even strips. So we have 4 strips of Post-it tape in half-inch size. We're going to trim this one down a little more. Okay, I'm going to line the top, bottom, left, and right of my card base with these Post-it strips. And then we'll do the bottom here. So we have a frame. We're going to have a sea glass frame around our inside panel here. Now I want to do some tone-on-tone stamping, so I'm going to use my watermark ink, and I'm going to use that Leaf Florist that we used for our first card. I'm going to ink it up with my watermark ink and just go over my entire background. So we have a tone-on-tone look. It's going to be very subtle and soft, but I'm covering the entire inside here with my leaves. And then to fill in any extra areas, there's a little 3-dot cluster in the stamp set. I'm just stamping a few dots here and there, filling in those areas. Now we're going to remove our Post-it tape, and we have a nice border around our tone-on-tone pattern there. Now I wanted to use this leaf. This leaf says Hello Spring, and I didn't want to use a traditional green color, so I'm using some MFT's Snow Cone ink. It's a real pretty blue. And then to add a little extra shading, I'm going to go in with In the Buff ink. It's a kind of a taupe colored ink. And then I want to bring in a little green, so I'm using some spearmint. And just going around the bottom edge of my leaf image here. We'll do a little bit more, add a little more green. Okay, once we have this done, I want some flowers. So for the flowers, we're going to use Peach Bellini. Just taking one of the flower images in the stamp set. We're going to stamp it 3 times. Well, I wanted to use this corner up, but I knew I was going to stamp some leaves with it, so I was making sure it was positioned the right way. So there's a little 2-leaf cluster. I'm going to stamp those with some sour apple ink. And I'm getting them close to the flower as I can get them. And then I'm going to fussy cut out my Hello Spring leaf and my little flowers. Okay, I also cut out a circle with some vellum, and it's about a 2.5-inch circle. And this little piece of yellow and white stripe paper was left over from card 1. I thought we'd just fishtail the ends and add that to the very bottom of our vellum. I'm going to pop it up with some foam tape though. We'll add that, so it's overhanging the vellum just a little bit, and then we're going to add our leaf. The bottom part of the leaf is going to be hanging over that fishtail banner, so I'm doubling it up. Actually, I didn't do that. I just added foam tape. I'm going to scoot my little fishtail banner over a little bit. Okay, now we're going to add some foam tape behind our little flowers. We'll just remove the release paper, and I'm going to add 2 on the top here, kind of doing a little tucking, and then we're going to add 1 on the bottom here. Love these colors. I think they're soft and so pretty. So I'm taking my vellum piece, we're going to flip it over and add some foam tape behind just the areas that are covered with our little flowers and our bigger leaf, and I just place that in the center of my card base. I did double up on some natural colored twine. I just tied a bow, and I'm going to put that over the stem of our Hello Spring leaf. To fill in my flowers, I'm going to use our vintage drops. We'll just add a few little dots of color, and that finishes off that card. Okay, now we're going to move along to card number 4. Card number 4 is kind of a super easy one, but I have this pattern paper. I cut out a panel that's 3.5 inches by 4 3/4. I'm just going to glue down a piece of fun foam. Usually I use double-sided tape, but today I'm going to use my glue, and I kind of like using the glue on the fun foam because you have a little wiggle room on placement. Now I wanted to use these stickers here. We're going to use quite a few of them. Now, when I use stickers, they're pretty heavy duty, but I like to put just regular fun foam behind them because the adhesive will stick to the fun foam, and then I can just add more adhesive on the reverse side. But I'm just going to do this to a few of my little framed elements here, and I'm going to fill in this entire white and yellow striped background here, as if they're almost like pictures on a wall. I thought that'd be really fun. We're just trimming our fun foam down and adding it behind our stickers. And I'm going to do that until my entire background's filled in. And then I thought we need a little extra something. So I started off by gluing down my elements to my pattern paper. And as I got this one done, I thought we need just something else in here. So I grabbed some brown glittery brads that I had in my stash. And I'm going to use my craft pick here and poke a hole in the very top of this one and add a brad. We'll just fold over the prongs in the back. And I already have glue down on this one. And that's a good thing about using glue with fun foam. You have time to pick it up. And just the larger little frames, this one actually has 2 dots on the top and bottom, so we're going to add brads to each one of those. But just, I think the little brads added a lot of detail. We'll add some glue and stick this down. And then we're just going to glue down. We'll add one more brad to this one, and then we're going to glue down the rest. And I think, hindsight, if you wanted to use your Sizzix foam that came in the kit for this, you could. I actually tried die cutting out the foam with the die that came in this month's kit, and it didn't work out too well. You'll see that in part 2. But that finishes off that card. Now, for my final card for part 1, I'm going to take the bicycle in the stamp set, and we're going to stamp that. I'm using cement gray ink. We'll stamp that. I'm going to use a couple of markers to color in the little basket on the bike, just to give it a little bit of color. And I listed the colors I used over here in the left corner for you guys. Just going to add a little bit of green, and we'll dot the center of the flowers with the darkest pink here. I'm going to fussy cut my little bicycle out, and then I'm using a tag die from MFT to cut out some tag parts. I'm just placing it on the pattern paper, and I'm going to run that through my die cut. This is the Tag Builder Blueprint set from MFT, and I'll link it down below. It's a super pretty tag set. But I'm going to layer the top piece on my pink pattern paper, and then I'll add the little enforcer over the tag. And then we're going to double up on our natural colored twine, and then we're going to we'll wait to tie our bow. I like it secured to my panel before I tie the bow. It's just easier sometimes. Now, I did cut out a panel. The panel size for the background of my card here is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4, and I didn't use a stitched rectangle die. I just used my paper trimmer. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this 1-inch strip of black and white gingham pattern paper to the very bottom. And then I did cut out a 1/4 inch strip of the green and white polka dot pattern paper. We're going to add that on our gingham pattern. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to my card base. Next, we're going to add some foam behind our tag, and then we'll place that towards the left of our panel. Once our tag's adhered, we can go ahead and tie our bow. We'll just trim the tails of our bow a little bit. And then we'll add our bike. For the bike, one part of the bike, the front wheel is going to be hanging over, is it the front wheel or the back wheel? The front wheel is going to be hanging over our tag. So I just added one piece of foam tape and then doubled up on the back wheel. That way it's nice and even. For my sentiment, I'm going to use one of the stickers. I chose Live a Little, Love a Lot. And I did add this little green heart right above the bike seat. We're going to add some foam tape behind here as well and place this over the wheel of our front. And then I did lose a little footage, my goodness, but I added glossy accents. Oh, here it is. I have the picture on the wrong spot. Sorry guys, usually it's at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and add some White Blizzard glitter drops for a little sparkle. But these are the first 5 cards that I made. Again, for part 2, it'll be linked at the very top at the very end of the video if you want to check it out. I wish you a lovely day, guys. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.